Veronica Studnicka, and you're watching PHTV4 Spotlight. And today we are with Mel Tracy, the owner of Wild Birds Unlimited, located in Palos Park. He's going to talk to us today about bird feeders and bird migration, and be ready for a really interesting conversation. Hello, Mel. How are you doing today?
Good, Brian. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Likewise. So we are in the beginning of the fall season, and would you tell us what bird feeders should we have out for this season?
Well, I would start first off. The first thing I would say is I get more questions about hummingbirds, and a lot of people are afraid, hey, if I leave my hummingbird feeder out and there's food, will these guys migrate? And the answer is yes, they will migrate. And actually, we've already had almost all of our local resident hummingbirds, they're already gone. And the only hummingbirds we're getting kind of right now are ones that are coming down from Canada or somewhere up in Michigan or Wisconsin. They're coming all the way down. And for them, this is a real vital resource for them because there's not a lot of food available for them anymore. So if these guys can hit a feeder on the way down, it's like a super great benefit to them. So leave your hummingbird feeders out. And I tell people, leave them out all the way until Halloween, which most people aren't going to see any hummingbirds past, the end of September. But we only really get the ruby-throated hummingbird here. But there's a rufous one that lives all the way out in like the Rockies, and they migrate kind of across. They hit the Great Lakes and then they come down. And so if you're going to get a different species of hummingbird, late like into October and even late October is when you're going to get it. So just leave it out there. The nectar is going to last a long time because it's cool nights. You don't have to worry so much about changing the nectar all the time. So that's the number one question I think we get around in the fall. It's like, and that's not just true of hummingbirds, but all birds. People are like worried, if I have food out, are these guys going to migrate? And the answer is they are going to migrate. Hummingbirds and other birds, the way they determine whether it's time to migrate is by the amount of light of the day. Okay, and so when the light starts getting less, they know it's time to move on. So it's not really a food availability thing. It's more dependent on the amount of light in the day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what are some more unique and difficult birds to attract during the fall, and what seeds do we use? Okay,
well, one of the easiest things I'm going to show you here is this is called a seed cylinder, and the food is kind of held together with a gelatin, and you just drop this in the feeder. Now this particular one has hot pepper in it.
Wow.
And so I know, people are like, birds like hot pepper? And actually, the birds don't have heat receptors, so they don't taste it at all. But this keeps the squirrels and the raccoons and other guys, other critters, that you might not want eating the bird seed. So this really, hot pepper kind of keeps the bird seed for the birds.
So the squirrels have the taste buds then?
Yeah. The birds are like mammals like us. We all have those heat receptors, so yeah. And then these last a long time. They'll last you a couple weeks out there, 10 days to 2 weeks. So you don't have to fill the feeder every day. And that'll bring in some great birds. Laura, my wife, whoops. My wife Laura just saw a red-breasted nuthatch the other day, which is a really neat little bird. And they only come here every couple of years. So it's kind of a special thing, and they'll stay through the winter and then move on. And there was some speculation. They were here, a lot of them were here last year. And so they usually skip a year, but I've heard that the fires in Ontario kind of sucked up a lot of their, burnt up their food supply. So they had to be moving on down here. So, I mean, it's bad for the birds to have to come down, but it's kind of great for us with our bird feeders,
Nice.
So that's one guy. The other ones that are coming are the juncos. And I just pulled out, I don't know if we can even see this. This is just a little seed called millet.
Okay.
And typically the birds kind of knock it out of the feeder, it falls on the ground, and the juncos love this stuff. So this is a great one to have. The other one to have is Niger, and this one goes into our goldfinch feeder, which kind of brings me to my second most common question, and that is, what happened to my goldfinches? Where did they go? And a lot of people are surprised. The goldfinches are here all year. But they completely lose all their yellow feathers and kind of grow into brown ones. And so people are like, oh, they're just the little brown jobbers. And they don't really realize those are the goldfinches. So goldfinches are kind of unique in that they'll molt twice a year. So They're going to lose their kind of feathers now, turn from that bright, bright yellow. People call them wild canaries. That's what we're talking about. And then they're going to turn into these little brown jobbers. And that helps them kind of keep camouflaged from, predators and that kind of a thing. And then that come next April, they'll switch back into their bright yellow.
How do they survive like the extreme cold weather, like below zero? How do they survive that?
That's a great question. Yeah, there's a lot of birds have different strategies. One of my favorite birds is a little chickadee, and they just weigh an ounce or something. They're super lightweight. And those guys, they can actually, they go into like a mini hibernation. They call it a torpor. So their heart rate goes down, their body temperature goes down, and birds have this neat little tendon. And so when their arm is up like this, they're okay. But then as they sit down, the tendon pulls this in. So when they kind of sit back like that, it actually locks them onto the branch so they can put their weight back. It locks them on, and then they can sleep and kind of be in this hibernation while they're on the tree, but not using any of their energy to kind of squeeze the branch. So that it is fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
But one thing, along the lines is like, so they can kind of reduce the amount of energy they need, but that next day they'll lose about 40% of their body weight.
Wow.
Yeah, so they have to make up for all of that stuff. So one of the things we have here is this is a high fat, this is a winter bird seed cylinder. So this is super high in fat, and that's what the birds are burning. They need high fat foods so that they can build up their fat reserves so that next night they can make it through that next night. So it's a vital resource for the birds, through the winter nights. So.
Who knew?
Yeah, right?
So folks, got to get your winter high-fat bird feeders for your birds.
Yeah.
You're doing, the birds a big favor. So really quick, you had mentioned earlier something about migration. Something happened last night. Can you share that with our audience?
Oh, yeah. So there's a Cornell University has a thing they call birdcast, just like forecast, but birdcast. And that will show you what they expect migration to be overnight. And it's kind of throughout the country, but it has like little heat maps. So you can see where it is. And last night, and actually for the next couple of nights, so this is September 21st, 2nd, 3rd, that kind of thing. It shows you right where that is, and right in the middle of the country, right through our corridor, huge migration. So, and they find these things because birds, when they migrate at about 5,000 feet. So they show up as like little weather. They look like rain, actually, little rain clouds, because they're flying at 5,000 feet, and there's like a cloud of them coming. So they were expecting about 550 million birds, but based on the radar data, there were actually 750 million birds that were migrating through the country. I mean, it's a staggering number, isn't it?
That must have been a beautiful sight, too.
Right. Well, it's night, so we couldn't see them, but yeah, if you could see them, it'd be awesome.
Could you see it with a telescope?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think there's enough light.
No.
Yeah.
And then a drone is too.
A drone?
Not high enough.
Yeah, right. No, and some people are very good though. With their hearing, if the birds are migrating low enough, they can hear the different bird sounds the birds are making, and they can kind of figure out what's going through. But
interesting.
Yeah.
So for the winter season, you had mentioned high-fat food. Is there anything else here that you want to share with our audience?
Well, here's one thing. This is a heated bird bath, and I can't stress enough how important it is for these birds to have a source of fresh water for a couple of reasons. One reason is that it's real hard for birds to eat like snow or ice. It just takes too much heat out of their mouth. It's just like if you drink a really cold drink, you can drink it, but you can't really drink ice.
Right.
And so it has to melt in the bird's mouth, and they just can't do it. So having access to fresh water is absolutely really saves them so much energy. And the other aspect of it is birds can't insulate themselves with dirty feathers. Their feathers can get dirty and oily, and so they're just not going to insulate. So they have to bathe, and it's crazy. I mean, for people who have bird baths out in the wintertime, they'll see like robins, full on, just shaking in the water, and it's like you're like, oh, I can't believe it's like 2 degrees out there, and these guys are bathing. But they absolutely have to do it in order to keep their feathers, fully insulating themselves.
And then how often should the water be changed? On a daily basis? Because does the water get slimy or dirty?
Yeah, I mean, in the summertime, you're going to have to change it a lot more often. But in the wintertime, your biggest thing is it's going to evaporate off. So you're going to constantly be filling it, maybe every couple of days, yeah.
Okay.
But then when you do that, if you can get a brush and just kind of swoop it out and pour in the fresh water, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And do you want to share anything else about the unique area that we live in regards to diversity of the birds and the migration piece? Anything else that we should be, keeping an eye out for?
Oh yeah, sure. There's, a lot, like, where are those birds, like those 750 million birds, where'd they go? Well, a lot of them kind of come across Lake Michigan that fall in right along the lakefront. So the lakefront is a great place to go and see all of these different birds that are coming through. But here in Palos, we have a really unique situation where they got all these woods here. And so a lot of times they're going to be, even if they fall in at the lake, they start making their way through the day. And places like McClory Springs is a great place to go to see these birds. Camp Sagawa has bird feeders out. And so you get a lot of these birds hanging around the feeders there. And it's a beautiful place just to even take a walk in the fall. So it's a gorgeous setting. You'll see great birds. If you're up for kind of a bigger trek, we have these big birds called sandhill cranes that are, they stand 4 feet tall and have 7-foot wingspan. They're huge birds. Those guys, they migrate and they'll go to Jasper Pulaski, which is a fish and wildlife place in Indiana. And from the beginning of they start coming in beginning of November, say, but they peak at end of November, beginning of December, and they will have up to 30,000 of these birds that are 4 foot tall with 7-foot wingspan. It's unbelievable. It's an amazing sight. They all kind of congregate in one area at night. So if you're there in the evening, you've got this beautiful sunset and 30,000 of these sandhill cranes coming in. I mean, it gives you chills if you've ever seen it.
They look like little miniature dinosaurs
flying.
That
guy loves the birds too.
Big fan of birds.
Yes, right.
So what if you wanted to go across the country? Is there any place that people should, hit if they're bird lovers?
Oh, wow. There's so many places in the country. But, if you're going, a lot of people go down to the Texas coast and into Arizona to kind of see birds in the wintertime. There's lots of awesome places. The Chicago Lakefront is one of the, they rated in the places of, places to see in the country. It's one of the top 10 in the country for migration, especially in spring. Because the birds are kind of migrating and they see this big body of water and they all fall in, the night before because they don't want to be out in the middle of the water. So they all get there, hang out for a couple of days before they move on. So it's amazing. The same kind of thing happens. They're coming across the lake, they hit the lakefront and they're exhausted. So that's a great place. There's a place in Canada called Point Pelee, which is just on the other side of Lake Erie where the birds migrate through. In Texas, there's the Brownsville area and McAllen area, which are the furthest tip, and that's where the real bird nuts, because there's really unique birds where we can only see them coming in, they're Mexican birds basically that kind of come over into the area. So that's a fantastic place to go see birds.
Wow, I'm so impressed by your knowledge of birds and migration. This is definitely your passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, folks, we had the spotlight on Mel Tracy, the owner of Wild Birds Unlimited, located in Palos Park. Thank you so much, Mel.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. I look forward to coming back in the wintertime and learning more.
Absolutely, yeah. And just, stop in if you just have questions, even if you're not really looking for anything, but just want to know something. Stop in. Also, if I could just say, my wife's Facebook page, people are always telling me, the first thing I do is grab a cup of coffee, and the second thing I do is check out Laura's Facebook page. So check us out, WBU Palos Park on Facebook. That's a great spot. And then we're on Instagram and all the other places if you'd like to look for us.
Sweet. Well, I'm Veronica Studnicka, and you've been watching PHTV Channel 4 Spotlight, and the Spotlight has been on Wild Birds Unlimited. Thank you.